You do not need to change your whole life to get rich. You need to get 1% better with money today and then refuse to stop. That single rule, followed quietly, changes everything. Most people believe wealth comes from one massive move. The perfect investment, the big break, the moment everything finally changes. So they wait for it, and the waiting becomes a lifetime. But that is not how real wealth is built. It is built by getting 1% better with your money each day. One small, almost invisible improvement, repeated with a stubbornness that most people simply do not have. Today I want to show you exactly how that quiet rule works and why it beats waiting for lightning to strike. Start with the math, because the math is where the magic hides. If you improve by just 1% every day, you are not 1% better at the end of the year. Thanks to compounding, you are many times better. Tiny gains stack on top of tiny gains, and the growth curve slowly bends upward until it looks almost unreal. The same force that grows money over decades can grow your habits, your skills, and your discipline in exactly the same way. This is the exact same engine that turns a small monthly investment into a fortune over 30 years. You are simply pointing that engine at yourself and letting it run a little longer each day. Here is the catch, and it is the reason most people quit. On any single day, 1% feels like nothing. You save a little, you learn a little, you resist one purchase, and the world looks exactly the same that night. There is no applause, no visible reward. It feels pointless. And so people abandon the small steps, chasing something that feels bigger, never realizing they walked away 1 inch before the ground started to move. There is a name for this: the plateau of hidden potential. For a long stretch, your effort seems to produce nothing, because the results are building up out of sight underneath the surface. It looks like a flat line, right up until it suddenly is not. The people who get wealthy are simply the ones who kept walking across that flat stretch, trusting the math, while everyone else turned back believing nothing was happening at all. So let us make 1% concrete, starting with your money. It can be as small as automatically moving a tiny slice of every paycheck into an index fund the moment it arrives. Not an amount that hurts. An amount so small you barely notice it is gone. That single automatic move, protected and repeated, is a 1% gain that quietly compounds in the background for the rest of your life, whether you think about it or not. Then apply the same 1% to what flows out. You do not need to slash your whole budget in a heroic weekend. Just find one leak this week and close it. One subscription you forgot, one habit you can trim, one purchase you pause. Each closed leak is a small permanent win that keeps paying you month after month. Wealth is not one dramatic sacrifice. It is a long series of 1% decisions pointing the same way. Now point that 1% at your mind. The wealthy never stop learning how money actually works, and they do it in small daily doses. A few pages about investing, one idea about how the rich structure their lives, a single concept you did not understand yesterday. Knowledge compounds exactly like money does. Each small thing you learn makes the next thing easier, until one day you are playing a game whose rules everyone else is still guessing at. And do not forget your energy, because a broke, exhausted person makes poor decisions. 1% better here is almost laughably simple. A short walk, a little more sleep, one better meal. It sounds like it has nothing to do with money, but discipline in one corner of your life quietly leaks into every other corner. The person who can keep a small promise to their body finds it far easier to keep a small promise to their bank account. Underneath all of this is one big shift. Stop obsessing over goals and start building systems. A goal is the number you want. A system is the small thing you do every day regardless of how you feel. Goals are for direction, but systems are what actually carry you there. The 1% rule is really just a system in disguise, a quiet machine that keeps moving you forward even on the days your motivation has completely left the building. This is exactly why you make it automatic. Motivation is unreliable, it comes and goes like weather, so you remove it from the equation. The transfer happens on its own. The leak is already canceled. The habit is scheduled before you can argue with it. When your 1% no longer depends on how you feel that morning, it becomes almost unstoppable, running quietly whether you are inspired, tired, busy, or completely distracted by life. But some days automation is not enough, and you will simply not feel like it. This is the moment that decides everything. On the hard days, you do not need a perfect effort. You just need to not break the chain. Do the smallest possible version. Save $1, read one page, take one breath. Showing up small on a bad day protects the streak, and it is the streak, not any single heroic day, that builds the whole thing. Because the rule cuts both ways, and this is the part people ignore. If 1% better compounds upward, then 1% worse compounds downward. Skip the saving, feed the leak, avoid the learning, and those tiny declines stack up just as ruthlessly in the other direction. Most people are not standing still. They are quietly getting 1% poorer each day and calling it normal. The rule is always running. You only choose which way it points. Here is the beautiful part. Every time you keep a 1% promise, you are not just moving money. You are casting a vote for who you are becoming. Each small win whispers the same quiet message. I am the kind of person who builds. Stack enough of those votes and your identity itself shifts. And once you truly believe you are a builder of wealth, the daily habits stop feeling like a struggle and start feeling like simply who you are. Then, eventually, the tipping point arrives. After enough quiet 1% days, the compounding becomes visible. The savings you barely noticed have become a real cushion. The investments have started to earn on their own. The knowledge has turned into confidence. It can feel almost sudden, but it was never sudden. It was every small, unglamorous day you refused to skip, finally showing up all at once to say thank you. This is why patience is not just a nice idea. It is the single trait that separates the people who talk about wealth from the people who quietly, steadily build it. So let us bring it together. You do not need a windfall, a genius idea, or permission from anyone. You need 1% better with your money today, then again tomorrow, then 1,000 more times. Automate the saving, close the leaks, learn the rules, protect the streak. Boring on the surface, unstoppable underneath. That is the entire secret, and the best part is you can begin the very next hour. So here is your challenge. Before this day ends, do one thing 1% better with your money. Set up a tiny automatic transfer, cancel one leak, or read one page about investing. Just one, and then do it again tomorrow. That is how ordinary people quietly become wealthy. If this gave you a calmer, clearer way to think about money, subscribe to Wealth Loop TV, where we build that mindset one small step at a time. Your future is decided 1% at a time.